So my favourite American politician is apparently rumoured to be weighing a 2020 presidential bid. And honestly, this makes me very happy that this is coming into the open, that it looks like she's obviously going to run. This is an article in Politico, so it's it's not exactly truth dig you're hearing this from. Democratic Representative Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii is considering running for president in 2020, a source with direct knowledge of her deliberations told Politico. Rania Beatrice, an advisor to the progressive congresswoman and deputy campaign manager on Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign, has been putting out feelers for digital and speech writing staff for Tulsi Gabbard. One person approached about the position said that 2020 wasn't mentioned explicitly, but was heavily implied. Excuse me. Beatrice denied that the staffers are being hired for presidential campaign. She did not dispute, however, that Gabbard is considering joining what's suspected to be a crowded field of Democrats, of corporate Democrats, I should say, presidential contenders. Quote, I think everybody is focused on 2018, but we will see what happens after that, Beatrice said in an interview. Someone like Tulsi, with her experience, is an important voice in the party and the country. Top aides to Gabbard did not respond to multiple requests for comment. I've got a frog in my throat. Amid the clamour of Trump headlines of focus on higher profile candidates, Gabbard has been quietly making the traditional moves of a presidential candidate. She recently visited Iowa, where locals urged her to run for president. According to Iowa City Press Citizen, she keynoted a progressive gathering in New Hampshire in September, and she's writing a book due out the spring titled Is Today the Day, Not Another Political Memoir. I should also add she's also been on Joe Rogan. If you haven't seen that Joe Rogan interview, it's an hour and 45 minutes of brilliance. It's just so wonderful listening to a politician that is genuine. That is the feeling I get from her, and that's why I've been a big supporter of her now for a couple of years. And actually, Joe Rogan says at the end of that, I like her because she's genuine. And she's also obviously been on Jimmy Dore as well and other places. She's not just sticking to the mainstream. She's obviously going down the progressive route as well, which is good to see. A 37-year-old Iraq war veteran, Gabbard won her House seat in 2012 and became the first Hindu to serve in Congress. She has distinguished herself with an anti-interventionist approach to foreign policy and the Middle East. This is one of the reasons why I'm a big supporter of hers, and a progressive populist economic policy that has earned her praise from the likes of Sanders and former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing, but Gabbard has also drawn controversy, which would surely become a factor in any presidential race. In 2017, she came under heavy criticism for meeting with Syrian dictator Bashar Assad. Ooh, Politico calling him dictator. Obviously, they call the Saudi regime princes and from the kingdom. And expressing skepticism that he was behind the chemical attacks. Well, there's a reason that she had skepticism that he was behind the chemical attacks, because A, he would have no need or no advantage from doing chemical attacks. I've got a video coming out up on that in the next few days, dismantling a BBC article that they wrote in the last week. And also, you also have to check two things, most importantly, whenever there are allegations of anything of this kind. First of all, what actual evidence have you got, and where did that come from? Those two things in the media are sorely missed out from most of their reporting, and once you actually scratch under the surface, it becomes apparent that, hold on a minute, nothing is as cut and dry here as the mainstream and the establishment are telling us. And that's what she found, and this is also what I found as well. Urging caution over the use of military force that she cautioned. Because of that meeting. She also raised suspicion among progressives for meeting with President-elect Donald Trump during the presidential transition in 2016. I don't know how that would raise a suspicion with progressives, I know a hell of a lot of people who are establishment Democrats who were pissed off with that. Progressives weren't. Progressives were, no, get in there and try and change his mind on things. But Gabbard became the darling of the left in 2016, where she resigned as vice chair of the DNC after fighting against a primary debate schedule that seemed designed to give Hillary Clinton an advantage. There was no seemed about it. That's exactly what it was designed to give. She was one of the first members of Congress to endorse Sanders. Yes, she resigned as vice chair to endorse Sanders. This is a big plus for progressives. And, quote, there's a very clear contrast and clear difference when it comes to our two Democratic candidates, Gabbard said at the time, and who will exercise good judgment in matters of war. That was all she said about Clinton. Right. Can't get rid of this frog in my throat. I do apologise. Okay, so I've mentioned Tulsi Gabbard plenty of times on this channel. She's definitely my favourite politician in America. This is why, if you need to know where any politician stands, got this tip off Carl Kalinske yesterday. I was watching his live stream. Just type in their name and then on the issues. So Tulsi Gabbard on the issues, and this will bring it'll bring up her on the issues page. And as you can see here, she's great. She's great at the moment. Now she is on abortion, on the economy, on civil rights, corporations, crime. Just read the list down. I bring that up because that's how she is now. And the reason why I really want to talk about this video, about this subject most in this video, is because I've had a few people say that she's not as great as you think she is. She's not perfect. Well, my answer to that is nobody is perfect. So I started looking into her record, and indeed she isn't perfect. I've looked into it deeply, and I found a few things that I'm worried about, or rather you would be worried about when you see the headlines that certain people have written about her. However, I did find this article from the New Yorker after I'd done a load of research that was excellently put together, and so I thought rather than me explain what I think, I'll just read a couple of excerpts from this just to give you an idea of what she was bad on, why she was bad on it, and why she changed her mind, and where she stands now. So again, this is from the New Yorker of all places, but it says this. When Gabbard entered politics, she was only 21. She was 21. And in those early years, she was a social conservative, pro-life and active in the fight against same-sex marriage. I've had a few people, a few of my subscribers are gay, and they've said we're worried about this, so I promised them I would cover this, and I am doing. She is now pro-choice and pro-same-sex marriage on these and other issues. She has evolved enough to be almost, but not quite, at home in the contemporary Democratic Party, which is increasingly progressive, particularly on issues of gender and sexual orientation. For a decade, Mike Gabbard, who is a father, was Hawaii's leading opponent of gay rights movement. An energetic and often brusque, I think that's how you pronounce that word, activist who stood ever ready to denounce what he called the radical homosexual agenda. In 1999, after one of the main characters on the teen drama Dawson's Creek was revealed to be gay, Mike Gabbard flew to North Carolina, where the program was filmed, to lead a protest. And the reason why I've highlighted that is, with any form of bigotry, with any form of racism as well, you're not born that way. You're brought up that way. In 2003, she voted against a bill to oblige hospitals to, quote, provide emergency contraception immediately. This is when she was on the state legislature, or a representative for the state legislature, before she was in the House. To survivors of sexual assault, because it did not contain a conscience clause to allow providers with a religious objection to opt out. She supported government surveillance efforts. This is a big problem. Warning that the demand for unfettered civil liberties could make the nation vulnerable to terrorists, and she joined her father's battle against what she called homosexual extremists. In 1998, Mike Gabbard had successfully pushed for an amendment to the Hawaii state constitution to permit the legislature to ban same-sex marriage, which it did. 6 years later, Tulsi Gabbard led a protest against a bill that would have legalized civil unions for same-sex couples. So 6 years later, so that was 2004. Now, the reason why I picked this article up is because of this. As Gabbard was settling into a political career in 2003, so this is how she felt up to 2004, when I'm going on with the gay rights issues and the abortion issues. As Gabbard was settling into a political career in 2003, she did something surprising. She joined the National Guard. And when her brigade was shipped to Iraq, I said it the American way there, Iraq. It's Iraq. She volunteered to go, even though her name was not on the mandatory deployment roster. So she went to Iraq, did a tour of Iraq, and then she came back, went out and did a tour of Kuwait as well. She actually did 2 tours in the Gulf War. She often cites her time in the Middle East when asked to explain her political reinvention. By the time she ran for Congress in 2012, Gabbard was presenting herself as a more or less orthodox, progressive, pro-choice and pro-same-sex marriage. Quote, experiencing as a woman firsthand the impacts of countries that are acting as moral arbiters for their people, it really caused me to rethink the positions I held, she says. At a meeting in 2012, she apologized to LGBT activists in Hawaii for very divisive and even disrespectful things that she had said. Obviously 8 years previous to her doing these 2 tours of Iraq. And then this is something else that the article touched on, that has been something that has been Tulsi Gabbard has been accused of, and that's being as a member of the House Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committee. I've even heard people saying, I'm not voting for her because she's on that. As this article says, Gabbard is a member of the House Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committees, but she's still trying to build support for a signature piece of legislation, the Stop Arming Terrorists Act, which would prohibit federal funding for, quote, Al-Qaeda, Jabhat Fateh al-Sham and ISIL, or any individual or group that is affiliated with, associated with, cooperating with, or adherents to such groups. Its main aim, as Gabbard describes it, is to force the CIA to stop aiding militants in Syria. And that is the main reason why she says that she is on that committee. So I wanted to be fair here, not just to Tulsi, but also to just try and explain her explanation of why she has changed her mind on same-sex marriage and abortion. And I think that covers it perfectly. I really do. She's about as progressive as it gets. I think you would be hard pressed to find anybody in politics in America who is as progressive as Tulsi. To be quite honest, I really hope, I said this last year, I said if America elects Tulsi Gabbard in 2020, the world will immediately forgive them for Trump. Honestly, I feel that strongly about her. And she better not disappoint me if she does get into that position. Run, Tulsi, run. That's all I've got to say. If you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and click the bell below so you get a notification of when I drop further videos. Independent voices like mine, I'm sure you're aware by now, are being censored across all social media platforms, so please like and comment on the videos. That really does help the channel out, and share the videos wherever you can to grow the audience. If you can, please support me on Patreon. You can do it for as little as $1 a month. I cannot do this without your help. I rely on your donations. Thanks very much for your support. It really is appreciated. Until next time, peace and take care.